they want to gain performance, basically measure performance indicators on a tracking or continuous basis. So that's me done, and I'll hand back to Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Mike. Now it's time for a polling question. So the question is, hopefully everybody's seeing that on their screen, do you measure first contact resolution across more than one channel? Yes or no? If everybody could actually take the time to answer that, that would be great. We'll be closing off the poll in just a second. We'll give you guys another 5 seconds to complete. All right. And I'm sharing the results. So 71% of you say that you do not measure first contact resolution across more than one channel, while 29% say that you do. That's interesting information, and I'll hand it over to Rob.
Thanks, Sabrina. And that leads right into the third level of maturity. You need to take, yeah, that's it. That leads into the third level of maturity, which is this cross-channel information. Same type of information, the photograph that Mike talked about, but looking at it across all the various channels to get that 360-degree view. And it seems obvious to me that it would be easy to develop a survey, as an example, to inquire about how a customer's experience was with an organization across the various channels. Because it doesn't matter if the customer was contacting you by phone or email or doing self-service on your website, a survey could cover all of those and provide a single comprehensive view, but they typically don't. And that's, I think, related to the siloed nature of the various interaction channels. It's difficult to provide a single list to an outbound survey across multiple channels, or how do you make an outbound IVR call at the end of a failed web self-service interaction, so that you're getting a consistent survey view of everything that's going on. So, and it's known that probably 65 to 75% of the time of trying to coordinate information across the various silos is spent on just getting the data into a usable form that you can actually put it together. And that overhead builds in a huge reluctance to do this kind of improvement because it gets really complicated, it gets expensive, and the upfront and ongoing effort is what takes most of the money. And at the end of it, you still have a photograph. You're still missing the granular detail that you need that can really make those numbers actionable. And the actionable goal here is to improve FCR with accurate data that's easy to use and provides you ongoing meaningful results. Right? Improving FCR is what this is about. I want to be really clear on this. Calculating FCR as a number and as a benchmark is an expensive use of resources without that much return on investment, especially if you're looking across industries, because the definitions of what FCR is aren't standard. And I've been living in the space as a vendor with a focus on FCR for 6 years, and I go to conferences and I speak on FCR a lot, and I meet hundreds of contact center professionals. And it's only now I'm starting to see a change in the basic attitudes. And that's summarized by the standard question that I ask people that I talk to. And the question I ask is, what's your FCR rate? And in 6 years, it's only recently, and historically only one person a few years ago said, what type of call? And Mike talked about this. And it's huge, because if you don't know your FCR rate per call type or per contact type across all the different contact channels down to the agent level, then you don't have actionable FCR information. So when I talk about FCR and the fourth and highest level of maturity in this model, I'm really talking about implementing an interaction tracking and management process that's going to augment all your ongoing quality initiatives and your surveys with easily derivable, granular FCR numbers that are based on each individual contact type. And then the question is, how do you look at this really vast amount of measurement data that you have in a call center or off your website, and how do you take all that stuff and put it in one place and make it useful and manageable? What reports do you need to reward agents on FCR that make sense, or what information do you need to see to actually locate the root cause of a problem? And it turns out it's actually not that daunting. By collecting 6 key elements of any interaction and saving it in the same way, regardless of the channel, you can start to generate FCR as a report that you can just use. You don't have the need to go back and work the system to get the numbers and take that picture and develop it every time. So if you track who the customer is, who the agent is, or what application was being used for self-service, what the channel was, when the contact happened, and then the last two, which are the most important really, and seems to be the thing that everyone is missing because it's the hardest thing to track. Why the customer contacted you in the first place, and what happened. And with that information, you've got a system of interaction management, and it's going to provide you interactions and history out of your CRM application, for example, which gives you an FCR calculation that's granular, it's auditable, and it's consistent and fair to the agents as a report. Right? So today, you don't have an average handle time program. Average handle time is a report you get from your phone system. When you reach this fully mature level 4, you have an interaction system of record that gives you FCR as a report. So you can use the information actually to go way beyond what FCR is doing, but you understand contact drivers. You can provide agents up-to-date contact history. You can start forecasting service demand. When you save all these atomic units of an interaction, regardless of its channel or the service mode, self-service or assisted service, then getting at the information becomes really, really easy. Okay, so I've got a little bit more, but we've got another poll question here I'm going to pass back to Sabrina to look at where you think you are in this maturity level. Sabrina?
So the question is, what level do you consider your FCR program to be at? Awareness, measurement, 360-degree customer experience, or interaction management program? We'll take just a moment for you to answer.
And when we come back, I'm going to give some examples of how you can start to use this kind of information to specifically improve. And when you look at it, it actually kind of just makes sense.
Okay, the poll is now closing. And we can see from the results that 28% of people that answered believe that they're at the awareness level, 44% are at the measurement level, 25% are at 360-degree customer experience, and only 3% are at interaction management program.
And these numbers are actually distributed the way I would expect. There's a few more people that are in the awareness than I would have thought. But getting to this maturity level 4, it really, we found it's a different way of thinking about how you manage a contact center. So let's look at how you can actually use that to improve things in a contact center. And you don't need to have any hunches here about what's wrong. The data will tell you. When you've got these individual interactions complete with agent details, you can look at an agent's solve rate, for instance, so how good they are at solving a particular customer issue, regardless of the previous number of calls that the customer's made. So with that number, it becomes easy to see at a glance which agents are performing better by each specific contact driver. And by highlighting the call types with the lowest solve rate, it becomes easy to see where you need to provide training, for each individual agent, because you can target the lowest solve rate, which is where they are having the most trouble getting it right. Okay, so in this example, we can see that these agents' performance varies across the various contact types they're servicing. But when you want to improve FCR, you can do some very specific things. You can coach the top agent here on policy mods because she has the biggest problem there. Agent 2, you focus on coverage information. Agent 3, you focus on payments. But there's other things that are apparent from this information as well. So any work you do on improving quotations, for example, something that might easily show up in a survey, it might not be the best use of your time because the number of repeats you're getting there is actually fairly low. Now, you might ask the question, well, but that may be a real driver of customer satisfaction. And the thing is, that's a question that just came up. And the advantage of having an interaction system of record is it's now very easy to go ask that new question and get the data back. So in this environment, FCR becomes a measure of a systematic interaction management solution. rather than a big process you go through in itself. So how do you use this? You can use it to identify problem calls, like repeats as an example, as they occur. Agents can be notified or systems modified so you can proactively improve customer service. Customers or companies that experience low FCR rates can benefit from identifying which types of contacts go unresolved so they can focus improvement efforts on what's costing the greatest amount of money. And I said you might be surprised at what you find because a large number of your repeats are actually coming from things you didn't know you did. So the agents probably don't even have a process for it. And we see in our numbers that contacts, very often one and done, which is great, and then there's the next spike at 2 calls, but then the next spike is at sort of 8, 9, 10 calls. So it's identifying these long tail, unknown processes that has a ton of upside for you as an organization. And you can augment all of this through the continued use of surveys to continually check and balance internal numbers against your customer perceptions. Interaction management also places all the interaction types on an even footing. So the same information is available about an interaction and its outcome, regardless of the channel the customer used. And with proper design, you can get this seamless 360-degree view of the customer experience across all the channels and across all the participants that's actually easy to use. There's 6 elements you need to track. So other uses, I'm going to go over this fairly quickly, but you can look at repeat call routing. You can identify very quickly call spikes and understand why they're happening. Providing customer history to CSRs. So, wow, wouldn't it be great if a customer called and the agent knew the last 4 times that they called you? Drilling to examples for root cause analysis to be able to actually fix things. Or doing a survey, but tying it back not to the call the customer just made, but to the call they made a month ago when the credit wasn't done properly on their bill. Just being able to tie all that together. And these are all things you get out of interaction management that go beyond FCR. So how do you go about building one of these things? You may or may not have the systems in place you need today. Your CRM application, for instance, may be able to be used for this. But regardless of what you do, you need to define a single system as an interaction system of record, and then every interaction has to go into that system. Capture those 6 key elements of every interaction you deal with, including the out-of-band events that occur that you're probably not capturing today. From every application, from your self-service, from the agents, right in customer interaction data into this place, even from your IVR. And remember that all-important input, what the contact was about and what the outcome of that interaction was. And then the other thing where these typically will fall down in a company is you need to make sure that the IT group builds a system with analysis in mind. Okay, by creating a system that acts as an interaction, like an anchor point for all your other systems, then you can get at any data that you want quickly. And it's a very important point. And this is something that's often missed when the CRM is done initially. It's more a bunch of buckets about customers, and no one gave a thought to how do I anchor all this stuff together. And then as a part of this whole methodology, you are going to have to manage the system, okay? It's very powerful. It is a bit of a silver bullet, but it takes work. You have to manage agents to make sure that the calls or the contacts are being tracked properly. If you're not automating it, you need to make sure that every interaction is really being captured. And there are management tools you can use to assist with this. And you might not realize it now, but this will become your primary source of management data from your contact center. And it will reach out to almost every aspect of your business. So it's going to be important. Your contact center is driven by interactions from your customers, and it makes sense that you capture that information accurately in a usable form. Once you've got that, for first contact resolution, it becomes easy to go back and start looking at those repeats down to an agent level to look at solve rates per individual contact reason types.